Good morning everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. Never thought I'd be starting my video on the top of a double-decker bus, because usually they only come during the evening. Or at least that's what I've been experiencing. But that's not why you called. No. The leftist media, oh, we know them all too well. How they will take any opportunity to libelously slander us people, us good people, as far right. How they will say that just because we want to grieve for our children, or Germans want to grieve for their children when they lose them, that we're far right. How if we are concerned about mass-controlled immigration, we're far right. And how if we think that there's two-tier policing now, it seems, because that's another one they've added to the list. If you now think that there's two-tier policing, you blatantly must be far right. Or sorry, far right. Because obviously it comes from the mainstream media, so it has to be true, right? Yeah, no. Let's wake up into the real world. And I need a bloody coffee, but I forgot to have one. Anyway, they will always lie about us. That's the cold, bitter truth. They will always libelously slander us because they know that they've got the best lawyers because they've got all the bloody money, while we will struggle to get even a half-decent lawyer. That's the cold truth on it. But eventually the mainstream media is going to slip up. And when they do slip up, we need to be ready to capitalise on it. Just like that. We need to make sure the mainstream media are held accountable for continuously lying and libelously slandering us. Because last time I checked, a journalist is supposed to report the news, the truth, impartially and without bias. And I would certainly think that also among those guidelines it would involve not committing libel and slander, not willingly doing defamation of character to an entire nation of people. But we all know these guys have about as much spine as a bloody frog, quite frankly. Much like Keir the traitor Starmer, but we already know about him. But the leftists always seem to, as well as libelously slander us, any time that we give credit to someone, whether it's in a sarcastic way or whether it's we're taking the piss or what have you, the left always seem to take that and think, oh, we actually mean it and we're doing it as gospel, such as when Trump decided to say Starmer, Keir the traitor Starmer, that is doing a good job. I don't think he elaborated what he's doing a good job on, though, do you? I think I know a couple of things he's doing a good job of. Screwing the country, number one, and number two, lying to the British people. Those are two very good things that they are stroke number one, that they are very good at. But of course the mainstream media won't tell you this. Of course they won't. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. But then of course they won't, because they know if they did something that didn't suit the narrative, it would completely destroy them. Just in the same manner that Tommy Robinson destroyed Panorama with his Panodrama documentary that exposed John Sweeney as a homophobic piece of shit, basically. The one that tried to catch Tommy Robinson out on a text that Tommy Robinson had used on a fake texting website that obviously hides your identity, hides your phone, and it basically sends a message in the name of the person that you want to do it to. So someone could go on this website, basically put Tommy Robinson's name in it, put a body of text in there to what they want to say, and basically send it to whoever they want. So even I could, if I so wanted, and I don't, let me be absolutely clear on that, but even I could go out of my way to visit this website, put my text in, have the message say it's from Tommy Robinson, and then send it to some woman saying, I am going to do stuff to you. That's the thing. The mainstream media, of course, absolutely jumped on this, like the absolute lemmings that they are. Lovely little game, that, actually. I always enjoyed those bombers and blockers and what have you. Anyway, they went onto this. They jumped it. They couldn't jump on it any faster. They were on it like white on rice. But they didn't realise, of course, that this was a sting operation by Tommy. And their little gotcha moment got reversed. It got Uno reverse carded. Sorry. They effectively became the ones getting stung rather than the ones doing the sting. And June Slater made this very good point about how the leftist media will cling on to just about everything that we say. We could literally say that we think someone's doing a good job, and then they'll take that, and then everything else we say goes in one ear and out the other, because there's nothing in between, let me bloody tell you. But the way I slice it, I don't think the media is going to change for anyone. After all, it's state-owned, which means propagandists everywhere. They're not journalists, because that would imply that they're doing their job of reporting the news with integrity and honour, when we all know they have about as much integrity as a burning straw tent, quite frankly. They can sit there and say all they want, that Tommy's this and Tommy's that, but the thing is, a lot of people who used to not like Tommy Robinson, a lot of people who thought him as a wrong-un, they're actually starting to realise that not everything the mainstream media says is actually true. In fact, I would say very little is really true these days. Because that's the thing, they don't even do the slightest bit of bloody research on Tommy Robinson. They just go with the state-funded narrative of, oh, he was the former leader of the EDL and he's far right and he's Islamophobic and racist and blah blah blah. But as I've said many times before, the moment you ask them to provide any kind of evidence on this, their argument goes up in smoke, just like that, because they have no evidence. They have nothing that they can actually truly pin on Tommy Robinson. And I know a lot of leftist NPCs who don't like Tommy Robinson will come out with the same NPC-esque spiel of, oh, he's a convicted criminal, he's been done for mortgage fraud, for assault, for, oh, I don't know, making shit up as he goes along, and you know, that's basically what it is. They just make this up as they go along, and they don't actually look into it. They're happy being spoon-fed the BBC bullshit that they keep getting, well, basically thrown in their faces. Or if it's not BBC, it's Sly News. Or if it's not them, it's Channel 4, or it's ITV. But basically, you will be hard-pressed to find even a single media outlet that will speak any good about the boogeyman, as it were, Tommy Robinson. You will be very, very hard-pressed to find anyone who is willing to say Tommy Robinson is not the evil man that people are making him out to be. You will be hard-pressed to see people say, oh, well, he's being persecuted, he's a political prisoner, he's being put through the ringer. Because, obviously, a lot of these people are part of the oligarchy, which means they don't want to lose their little position of power. And if they go against the narrative, the oligarchy will throw everything at them to destroy them. Remember that. If they don't conform to the state-funded bullshit, if they don't conform to the narratives that the oligarchy have put forth to keep the British people from knowing about X, Y, and Z, then they will go out of their way to make sure that they are politically assassinated, as in their career is over, or they'll do something even worse, quite frankly. And I'm going to end up flying through this fucking bus at this rate. Anyway, they will do everything they can to make sure that that person is cancelled or destroyed or whatever. Thank you. Like the media, I bet there are a few odd people who would probably want to say, yeah, there are things that are going on in this country. I think there are people who do want to say that Tommy Robinson is not as bad as the mainstream media make out. But the trouble is, they won't speak out because they know that their little position in the oligarchy will be in question if they do. I've mentioned this many times in my reading of the manifesto book, which I think we're just over halfway through it at the moment. But the oligarchy will throw everything at anyone who stands in their way. One thing you can assure yourself of is if anything is standing against the oligarchy, it will not be standing for long. But we need to keep calling out the leftist media. We need to keep putting complaints in. We need to call out the blatant lies. We need to call them out when they're committing libelous slander. We need to make sure that we are holding the media and the government to account. The way I slice it, the only way they will understand that the power belongs with us and not them is if we keep mentioning it to them, reminding them. There was actually one video that I actually managed to find that later tonight when I start uploading this, I am going to link it in the description below. And it is basically a video from the US, which is basically a great leader, I believe, or some significant person, saying that as far as all this is concerned, think of a car and a driver. We're the driver and we tell the car where to go. Well, I would if I had a bloody license. I can't drive one. Anyway, we are the drivers. We tell the car where we want to go, how fast it goes, and basically what route to take. And if Keir the traitor Starmer thinks he's going to deny us what we are rightfully due, he has got another thing coming. As I've said, I do fundamentally believe that if he does not resign by the 1st of March, stroke number 2, I do believe we are headed towards a revolution. And as I've said, I don't want that. I don't want us to have a civil war. I don't want it to come down to we need to overthrow the government to get what we want. Because if that's the case, then what was the point of the peaceful movements? But the cold bitter truth is, you can only do peaceful resolution for so long before violent revolution becomes inevitable, quite frankly. And what the mainstream media need to be reminded of is we're in our hundreds of thousands, if not millions. How many are they? If they're lucky, they might have, I don't know, a few thousand people in the BBC, maybe tens of thousands in the police, at most. And the army, well, if they get brought in, I've mentioned many times, Keir the traitor Starmer will maybe get 20% if he's lucky. Most of them will serve us. Most of the armed forces will side with the British people because they know we're the ones with the real power. They know that we basically are the drivers of the car. And if they don't want to go where we want to go, then we'll find a new car and consign the old one to the scrap heap. In my honest opinion, if I could compare these leaders to cars, I'd probably say they're all a bunch of fucking old bangers, quite frankly. They're about as much use as a chocolate ashtray on a motorbike. They'll just about get you to go somewhere, just not necessarily where you want to go, or necessarily how fast you want to go, or the route you want to get there with. And I bet the petrol and the diesel and the unleaded is just as bloody expensive. And you know what I think? I think on the side of the bonnet, on the front of the bonnet, what am I on about? On the front of a bonnet for Tony the War Criminal Blair, it would literally have on the front of it, I'm a war criminal. The same war criminal, as said, that has sent thousands of soldiers to their deaths in a war of a false pretense in Iraq for WMDs. But the leftist media and the government must be reminded that if they are not willing to do their job, we'll find someone to replace them, just like that. If they aren't going to take us to our destination, we're going to get a new car. They have to understand. The power does not belong with them. It belongs to us. We put them in power. They like to think that they have the false illusion over us of we think we have the power, but really don't. But we do have the power, we're just not bold enough to show them yet. But what do you think's going to happen when the British people find their courage? What do you think will happen when they find the inner lion within them? What do you think will happen when the British people stop pussyfooting around the problems and actually start calling out the establishment for what they're doing? I guarantee you this much. If the British people woke up, all of them, and I'm talking about the 90% that are still fast asleep, oh boy, they would be in so much trouble that they'd be shitting out their insides, worrying about what's their next course of stroke number 3. What their I can't even get the words out. Fuck's sake. What their next course of action is. That's it. That's the one. I'll get there in the end. Still going on for the fucking average, although I'm a little bit below, I think. I think I was on 76 strokes when I last checked. So if we're on 79 now, and I know that 78 goes into 326 times, and it's currently the 28th, I recall. I think that's the case. No, it can't be. No, that is right. That is right. I have got it right. I'm just doubting myself, that's all. But the bottom line is, we control the government. We just haven't got the courage to admit that. We haven't got the balls, whether up here or down there, or in my case both, to be able to say to the government, you do not control us, we control you. But I will mention one last point that is actually to do with some more G-gangs. But there was a Scottish G-gang that was recently convicted, I believe. But what I find particularly egregious about this is two things. First, what Paul Thorpe mentions, in that there are people that basically go out of their way to say, oh, you don't call out other G-gangs, which, pretty sure that wouldn't be true of him, and it won't be true of me, that these people are scum. It doesn't matter what your colour or creed or sex. If you go out of your way to violate the kids in any manner, you are scum. And you deserve to have your bits cut off, if I had my way. Otherwise, I would prefer it if they had the death penalty. But we can't do that because the ECHR won't allow us, which is why we need to leave it. But this Scottish G-gang, just to point out something that I don't think Paul Thorpe has, notice how this Scottish G-gang, between, what was it, 4-6 people, something like that, they got 95 years in prison. Whereas all these other people from the usual suspects, the religion of peace, as it were, how many years do you think they usually get? You'll be lucky if you see them get like 10 years a pop. That's the thing. I guess it does make me far right to say there is two-tier policing and two-tier justice in this country. How we can see that all these pervs, all these creeps, and all of these vile pieces of filth from the so-called religion of peace can do all manners of shit, and then they get treated with a kid glove. But if we step a hair out of line, even so much as post the wrong thing on the internet, then the judge will throw the book at us. You cannot say in this day and age that there is no such thing as a two-tier policing and two-tier justice society in this country, quite frankly. Anybody who does needs to get themselves checked out from the neck up. Because the cold, bitter truth is, there is two-tier in this country, and it's not just Keir the traitor Starmer. These people have to understand, we are not pissed off because we want to be pissed off. We're pissed off because we can see the blatant corruption, hypocrisy, two-tier policing, two-tier justice, and the constant efforts to screw the British people that we are seeing unfold before our very eyes. Likewise, we're pissed off because the media will do everything they can to spin anything we say into a negative light. They will do everything they can to say anything that we say positive about the left wing, they'll take it as gospel and not actually take the context. They'll just spin a yarn, and not even a very good one. I'm sure my nan could give them a ball of wool to show them how it's done, quite frankly. But they need to understand this on a final note. We are the driver. They are the car. And you know what? In some cases, it doesn't even matter the destination. What truly matters is the route you take to get there.